Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is giving me a review for Gang Related Season 1, Episode 2, Sangre por Sangre. And, so Gang Related. If you guys remember, the first episode of Gang Related, I liked it. I thought it was a good first episode. It wasn't anything extraordinary, but I overall enjoyed it. I thought it was good. There was a lot of really good stuff to it that I really enjoyed about it. A lot of good stuff about it that I really enjoyed. And, I was looking forward to the second episode, and I said I was going to watch it, and this episode was amazing. I was actually really impressed with how good the second episode was. It was actually a really good second episode. I enjoyed it a lot more than the first episode. I thought it was definitely better constructed, better acted, just better everything with this episode. Really, really good. I also like that there were two plots in this episode because I wasn't expecting that. And I overall enjoyed that. So, let's just get to this episode because I overall really enjoyed it. So, of course, the main plot had to do with Ryan. So, let's just get to it. So, Ryan is sitting and he tells Carter that he's right. And he says, you're right about all of it. And right away, I was very surprised this happened. You remember that whole investigation thing that Carter's doing? That's over because Ryan told him that he killed Tanner. He says they were drinking and they were drunk and they should have called it in waiting for backup. But Tanner went in, then the Hayes got separated. And he says he left Tanner and his family down. Ryan says if he had just stopped him before he went in, he would be at home with his wife and kids. He says he's going to have to live with that the rest of his life. And he asks Carter if that's what he wanted to hear. And Carter starts to ask another question, but Jessica shuts him down and says Ryan can go. And after he goes, Carter asks if she buys. You can definitely see that Ryan, again, is deeply affected by this. He's going to have to live with this his entire life because, he could have saved him. He's realizing he could have saved Tanner, but because they were too drunk, he could not save him. So he kind of is the one that killed him in a way, and that's why Ryan's so upset, I think, is that because he's realizing, oh, I could have saved him, and he didn't try to. So the surprising thing, though, is that Carter says even a bad cop is good 95% of the time, and she tells him that he has no further proof the investigation is closed. So I was very surprised at that, and my only complaint with that is that they closed that way too early. I mean, they just introduced this storyline in the first episode, and already they've closed out a storyline. I really hope the show does not continue to do this, because there have been a couple shows that I've seen, for example, Twisted with that whole show. That's the reason why I stopped watching the show, is because it just got boring. And I hope this show doesn't do the same thing, because what Twisted did that I hated was they had that really great conflict in there, and then they just, got rid of it, and it was really annoying after they did, because the show just became really boring. So overall, I hope that Gang Related does not do the same thing. So, yeah, I really hope they don't, because I thought there was a good scene, definitely, but I was surprised that they closed out that plot so early. I hope it's not done yet. So, so then we see, Hayes gives the location of the other shooters to Tay and V, and the gang of units put on their vests as Sam tells them he has at least a history of being caught and says be careful. And he puts Ryan on point as they head to the first of three houses where the shooters are holed up. They head to the first house, Ryan is up front, and they have some heavily artillery SWAT guys along with them. The door starts opening, and an old woman comes out, and Sam motions her to be quiet. She flips him off, then calls out repeatedly one time, and that's the signals that to all around that there are cops in the area. Sam calls out that they have compromised, and they all go on a high alert. Shots are fired at them. Someone throws a planter at Ryan. Cassius tells them welcome to the neighborhood, and they work their way down the side of the house. There's another shot fired. And Sam calls for a sit rep from the team. And two guys take shots at Sam and the others, and he goes after one who backtracks, really intense here. The guy jumps, Sam strikes, he must have preferred to fly and then go back in. So really intense here, as I said, really, really good there. Sam says that with the shooters locked up, maybe he can get Javier to back down. Ryan asks to let him try. He says since his son shot his partner, he owes him one. Ryan comes to the chapel at the hospital, and he tells Javier that one shooter's dead and the other three are in custody. He says it's over, but Javier says it's not over. So it's not over, and that's pretty big. And he says it's not over until they get LeVar's son. So then we see Marcella come in and says she wants the man who shot at her son to die. She says she wants their mothers to grieve, and she says she knows that it won't help Carlos and will put Ryan, Daniel, and the girls at risk. So I thought Carlos was dead, but apparently that's not the case. Javier gives her his word, takes in his arms, and Ryan's relieved. So that's good because they don't have anything to worry about. So he's out later with Cassius, tells him that Javier agreed to back off, and Cassius says they need some time off, and says he has a hot date he needs to see. Ryan asks what his name is, and Cassius laughs. Cassius tells him they went through J-Dub's phone and says the call came from near there. He stops the car, says they need witnesses, and Ryan says it's a waste of time. But then Cassius spots a surveillance camera, and they head to the shop. Cassius asks to see the footage. The guy says unless he has a warrant, he doesn't have to show him something. The shopkeeper says the police always want his hard drive whenever he's robbed, and it costs $200 to replace. He says it's cheaper to get robbed. Cassius says he's going to call in the warrant, and then he leaves. So, I mean, that was pretty big. So Ryan then asks the guy in Spanish about what he's hiding. He says he may be taking cash on EBT cards or something shady with other stuff. He says to let him see the footage, and if there's nothing they need, he can clear it off and they won't come back. So the guy gives him access, he scrolls through, and then Cassius comes up and asks how he got to corporate. He says he hablos español, and I like that they do Spanish on the show because like more people are going to watch it if they do Spanish, so I like that. They see one car that Cassius calls an SA Ferrari. He says the footage is so grainy it could even be Ryan since all Mexicans own the same car, and they agree it's a dead end. So that's pretty big. So J-Dub is pretty pissed off at this point. He says the cops are tripping, and Jessica says he's having second thoughts, and he says he's not going anywhere without Marlon. He says he has his heart and can't leave him. I like that they had sort of like a gay couple on the show because they kind of took a risk there. I wasn't expecting them to do that. You know, I wasn't expecting this to be a show that had gay people. But overall, I enjoy that because, again, it'll get more people to watch the show. You know, now Spanish people will watch it, gay people will watch it, and because there's gay characters on the show. So I do like that they did that because it'll get more people to watch the show. And I want more people to watch the show. So then we see the shooters are allowed out into the yard at the jail, and they are immediately jumped by all the Latino prisoners. The Latino guard tells them through the door that Javier sends his regards. Javier and Marcela are at the hospital with Carlos, and Carlos wakes up. He's not dead, and I was very surprised that Carlos was not dead. I was pretty sure he was dead. I mean, I guess I just didn't think the possibility that he could be alive. I mean, I was kind of upset that they killed him in the last episode, you know, right away. I'm like, they just killed the big villain on the show. So, you know, I'm happy that Carlos is not dead because now we have the main villain back, and that's good. And, yeah, so overall, I'm happy that he's not dead. Then we see Cassius, who performs J-Dub and Marlon's wedding ceremony. He pronounces them husband. The marshals take them away. And Sam asks how the hell they'll be able to hide these two. Ryan thanks Jessica and says it must be a relief for J-Dub not to have to live a lie anymore. She apologizes to Ryan about losing Tanner and about Carter. He tells him that he tells her that Carter isn't wrong about her dad. So Ryan says he doesn't know what happened between her and her dad, but that he trusts her. She says she used to as well. She leaves him her card and says to call if they need to talk. So it seems like they're on good terms overall. As we know, Ryan was kind of upset because Carter and Jessica, as we know, are getting married. So he's kind of upset about that. So Carter shows Jessica footage from a police dash cam that was near where Tanner was shot. There were 58 seconds between where Tanner was shot and where Ryan was. He says they need to know what happened in that 58 seconds, and she asks him to play it again. Carter talks to his parents as the doctor comes in and said that some of the bullets are still in him and they can't be removed without the risk of permanent paralysis. So, I mean, that's a pretty big thing. And, basically, you know, he asks why he can't feel his legs. The doctor says there has likely been substantial damage to the spinal cord, but it's too early to tell if it's permanent. He says with his injuries, it's highly unlikely he won't regain the use of his lower body. So the doctor says he'll come back in the morning to talk about options and tells Javier that they did all they could. Carlos gets mad and says he wants to be alone. His mom starts talking about him getting the best care, but he begs her just to leave. So I like this. I like that even though Carlos is not dead, he is sort of temporarily paralyzed. I like that because it's going to be interesting to kind of, I guess, feel bad for the villain. And I like that the show is actually getting us to care for the one character we're not supposed to like. We actually care about him. And Marcela goes. Javier rubs Carlos's head and kisses him. He says they're going to get through this, and Carlos says okay. His dad leaves, and he starts crying because, you know, that's his dad. So obviously, you know, Javier cares very much about Carlos. So, I mean, that's a pretty big thing. So, outside in the hall, Javier looks back at his son, hitting his legs and ripping out his IVs and shouting more and sobbing loudly. His parents can both hear him scream and cry in frustration. Javier tells his wife that he's sorry and says he has to go. She asks where he's going, but he doesn't show up. He calls his guy and tells him to find LeVar's son, and he asks what the plan is, and Javier says, Sangre por sangre, which means blood for blood, which means that the next episode, I don't know what's going to happen, but that's awesome right there. I love the way they ended it, because I was trying to figure out what the hell Sangre por sangre mean, and now we know what it means. So, not only do we know what Sangre por sangre means, we know that there's going to be a really intense fight, and I'm really looking forward to the next episode. I think it's going to be really, really good. So let's get to the subplot in this episode, because there was a subplot in this episode, and I overall really enjoyed this subplot. It had to do with Vee. Vee is at the hospital, and the only blood in the needle was hers. They don't know what else might have been on it. They tell her she needs to start on proactive med in case she was exposed to something, because they may not have known for 6 months. She pockets the needle and tells Tay she's ready to get back to work. So, you know, she's getting back to work and everything, but you can see that, you know, it's not good for her. Because she heads back to the crack house, and Tay startles her. She asks why he's there, and he says he's there to make sure she doesn't get killed, because he knows it's not safe for her. And she says she's not there to make an arrest. She got off the print on a needle that stuck her. A guy named Clay. She knocks on his door, holds out the needle, he resists and says, and she and Tay have to beat him down. She tells him to shut up and says if he sticks her, she gets to stick him. He draws a vial of his blood and says if she finds out he killed her, she'll be back for revenge. So that's obviously not a good thing. So Vee gets the call, and I was very surprised by this. The call basically says the blood work came back positive for HIV. Yes, Vee has AIDS, and if she hasn't started the cocktail, she needs to ASAP, and says it doesn't mean she'll get HIV. But it doesn't mean she'll get HIV. However, she's at risk of getting HIV, so that's a pretty big thing. So Tay comes over, and she lies and says she's fine. He says he knew that there was nothing to worry about. Obviously, though, she's going to tell him. She's going to have to tell him. I mean, as much as she wants to hide from him, she's going to have to tell him the truth. And, yeah, I really enjoyed the subplot. I like where that went. I thought it was an interesting twist, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next episode. But this episode, as I said, was amazing. I really did enjoy it. What's going to happen with Javier and Carlos? All I know is that it's going to be all-out war. It's going to be really big. I am not really sure what's going to happen, but we'll have to see. Is Ryan and Jessica okay? I feel like they're on the same page with each other now, and everything's fine. I think they're okay. Is Vee gonna tell Tay the truth? I'm pretty sure she will. She's gonna have to. So we're gonna have to see what's gonna happen there. And also, is the whole, Tanner, murder case over? Or do you think the Carter's gonna start it up somehow again? Do you think something bad's gonna happen? I'm not really sure. We'll have to see. But that's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next review, which will be for the series premiere of Crossbones. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.